Hi there, hello and welcome to the Breakfast Club. It's 8 a.m. by the clock. So this is the place that you start your day with. And today we are starting on a particularly happy note. It's the World Happy Bash, if you want to believe it or not. It's called the World Happiness Day. So we thought we'll dedicate it to smiles as well.
Sonal Mehrotra, Toya Singh, we're both going to take you through all of the numbers first on Gen Z. So how happy are they? How happy aren't they? We thought we should focus on them. But then we'll return to the larger theme of World Happiness Day. Why do we celebrate it? All of that and more right here. All right, let's take you straight into our top story of the day. TBC viewers, we are wishing you a happy World Happiness Day. Now, if we ask you about Gen Z in particular, about their happiness, they won't just say they want a stable job or they want a large paycheck, things that previous generations may have said. They want more from any organization that they've decided to give their lives to. This is a generation that wants meaning at work, they want mental health support before bonuses, and they want infrastructure that is built around them.
So they'll work hard, not like what you think Gen Zs don't want to do all the time. They will work hard, but only if their values match that of the companies. And if not, well, their LinkedIn bio is changing faster than you can say open to work. So where does Gen Z stand on workplace happiness? What do they expect? What are they willing to trade for? And what makes them quit faster than an unpaid internship? All of that is what we're going to decode on the program today.
We present to you a survey, and that's the numbers that we've been speaking to right now. We're going to be presenting to you a survey in a few minutes on cracking the Gen Z happiness code. Now, this is a survey that is conducted by the RPG Group. It's commissioned to Yuva. This analysis was reached after speaking with 4,000 Gen Z people, and this is across 10 different cities in the country. This research was collected in 2023, and since then it's actually been taken to roadshows, colleges, online to gauge the feedback. So what is Gen Z telling us about what makes them happy?
It's a very peculiar question. People have been trying to find answers to that for a while. Companies have been trying to find answers to that for a while because it is getting difficult more and more to hire them, even retain them. So let's not dive into any further discussion. Let's just look at the numbers straight up. We've got 6 set of graphics for you, 6 set of numbers that tell a story. Let's start with number 1. Gen Z at workplace, we try to look at their priorities. What is it that they prioritize in terms of even looking at companies or even looking at workplaces? Number 1, growth and opportunity is 62% up their list. Salary and incentive, 61%. Work-life balance, 56%. Let that number sink in. Learning and development, 53%. Job security, 52%, unlike what you might think. Appreciation and recognition, 48%. Mental health resources, 45%. Relationship with co-workers, 44%. Mentors, role models, 40%. Diversity, equity and inclusion, also 39%. So what does this really tell you? That unlike, if you look at the whole chart over there, unlike what you might think, that Gen Zs don't want stability, they're constantly looking for new jobs, they don't care where they work, that's not the case. If all parameters are met, then they want to stick around. If their purpose is met, then they want to show loyalty.
Okay, so Gen Z is loyal, but they do want a lot out of where they work, as you said. And I loved what you pointed out, work-life balance. Previous generations, perhaps not that high, but for Gen Z, and this is something we discuss often on the show, work-life balance matters. Okay, let's pull up that next set of numbers for you. What does Gen Z want at work? So, 54% answered, they were given all these options, we're just lining them up for you. 54% said that they want flexible work options. Mental health, for 50% of them, so 1 in every 2 said that mental health is a priority for us wherever we work. 47% said they want a workplace that is personalized, that feels as if it's built around the individual. This next one's really fun. 45% said they don't want a dress code. They don't want to be told.
Work in the media then.
Yeah. They don't want to be told how to dress. Love that. They don't want to be told how to dress. They want to have the freedom to make their own choices. And next up, this is a lovely one, 44% say they want a personal connect with top management. So those who think that Gen Z doesn't want to be accountable, it's the opposite. This is Gen Z saying, hey, we want to be able to talk directly to you, come to you, tell you what needs to change, all of that. And 42%, this is one I personally believe is very important, menstrual leaves. 42% saying that they do want a company that they work at to offer a leave when you do have your period, especially if you're going through a lot of pain. Effective harassment policies, 41% have said that effective harassment policies in the place they work are very, very important. And when it comes to, this next one is an important financial point. 38% have said office transport. We are willing to work, we're excited to work, but we want a place that will pick up and drop us back home and from home. There's also a safety aspect to that. And then there is the question of gender-neutral washrooms. This is something that has been much debated, talked about in other countries. In India, it turns out 36% of the Gen Z kids who were asked said, we want gender-neutral washrooms as something that is available. It's a priority to us in the spaces. And then this next one is particularly lovely. 36% said they want rooms in which there is the possibility of either meditating, so mental health, back to that being a priority, and crying rooms. So crying rooms are spaces basically where you can go out, take out your emotions. 36%.
You're laughing about it right now, but think of it, not a bad space, no, just to go and have like catharsis.
Yeah. Incredibly important. Spaces hopefully that have soundproofing. But and this last one, we do want to talk about multi-cuisine food provision. So 36% have said, look, khane ke liye, we want multiple options. It should feel like there's a lot to eat.
All right, so there's a lot to sort of decode from all these numbers that are coming in. So next, we thought we look at some priorities. By that, we mean what are the formulas that make Gen Z happy? If these set of things were included in any workplace, you are more likely to invite Gen Z workers, you're more likely to retain them as well, and it'll be easier for you to perhaps retain talent. So companies, listen up, this is what Gen Z is saying. They are saying mental health, flexibility, inclusivity matters. They are saying maintaining relationship with friends and family matters. They're saying mental health and well-being matters. A promising career matters, self-acceptance matters, finding time for self also matters a lot. A lot of it going back to work-life balance. Gen Z is essentially telling all workplaces that, listen, I don't live to work. Working is a means of life for me to live the life I want to make for myself.
Right. And just to take this a little further, because that's not all, they've said what's important to them is physical fitness, working for a social cause. We talk about that a lot. They really believe that their work needs to feel like it's fulfilling a purpose. Social acceptance and validation is also up there. Being ahead of their peers is important, and following their passion is important.
So seems like a lot that is required to make Gen Z happy. But is it a lot really, or are we just putting a millennial lens to it and saying, listen, we didn't ask for so much, why is Gen Z being so demanding?
We didn't get so much, so
why is Gen Z being so demanding? But the fact of the matter really at this point is that it's not just about what they are wanting. This is the only generation where so much of spotlight is put on them that they are also just figuring things out, and this world is changing rapidly. So let's take a pause from all the numbers for a minute and go back and throw all these statistics at our guests to try and understand what they decode from this. Joining us now is Supratik Bhattacharya. She is, hi, good morning. He is a Chief Talent Officer at RPG Group. Also with us is Shruti Swaroop, author for Microaggressions at Workplace, also founder for Embrace Consulting and Inclusive Build. Also with us back on the program is Kevin Lee, CEO of Yuva. Kevin is actually the one who's helped RPG actually get all these numbers. So he has great insight, stuff that didn't go into the survey as well, that can come out of this. But let me give the first word to the RPG representative here, Supratik. Here, sir, when you look at data like this, there are two reactions possible. One, kitne demanding hai Gen Z, bahut difficult hai inke saath kaam karna. And the second saying, hold on, if this is what the generation of today feels, we've got to change ourselves. Because this is the workforce that is going to enter, if it hasn't already, in the offices. And we've got to learn how to work with them.
I think clearly it's the second one. and this is going to be our future for tomorrow. So more and more, we are constantly asking ourselves, so this is what your future is going to look like. What is it that they're looking for? And that's the reason why we actually went in for this whole survey.
I see. And has it been difficult to implement it? Because while we might agree on what they want, how quickly do you think workplaces will be acceptant of this? I mean, we are talking in times where 90 hours of work is a debate. We are talking in times when menstrual leave is a debate, debated all the way in Parliament as well. How easy or difficult is it going to be to incorporate this in offices?
Sonal, it all depends on what level are we standing as an organization right today. Now, for example, for us at RPG, I think this journey started pretty long time back. Now, I'm not sure if you followed us for quite some time. We've been talking about happiness, right? And that's a different story altogether. But on that journey, we figured out that if your people are happy, they are at their natural best, and that's how they outperform, right? So if we clearly bring that formula right here, we wanted a group of people where we are effectively nurturing them and not sort of stifling them. So we have always been trying to create an environment which is of this nature, right? Now, some of the things that you talked about, and I'm not saying it because I work for RPG, but we have been creating some of these things for a pretty long time. Now, for example, we talked about purpose, right? You spoke about purpose just now. Now, we've been talking about touching lives. We're talking about, having purposeful businesses like, for example, KC. From outside, you could just call it a contracting company or an infrastructure company. But what we're effectively doing is reaching electricity to the last mile. We are taking potable water accessible to where it is not available, right? So each of our businesses are getting purpose-led. Now, so stuff like that we've always been doing. Now, when the Gen Z is talking about so many things that they need, I think, yes, we have a path to walk. It's a journey for us, but I think we are walking that path. And I think it is whether is it difficult? No, it's not difficult, but it's more of a cultural shift. People need to think differently. Do we have problems? Yes, we do.
Okay, so Supratik, in a little while from now, we'll ask you to take us a little bit behind the scenes and tell us about if there were parts that were stickier changes to make, trickier changes to make. But Kevin, let's just come to you for a second to ask you. Yuva has done and partnered with RPG to do a lot of the research that we're seeing. And some of the themes we've talked about in the research we've shared are familiar themes to us. So we often talk about the need for work-life balance that Gen Z has, the ability to be flexible when it comes to locations that they work at. These are familiar themes. So Kevin, I actually want to come to you with a different question. In the data and in the research, what were the points that stuck out to you as surprising, as maybe what you weren't expecting?
Well, it's a really good question. And I just want to say, like alluding to what Supratik also said, I think a lot of it is about what is the perception of organizations towards Gen Z, right? At first glance, it might seem like some of these demands are a little bit unrealistic, and especially for millennials or Gen X, where we've kind of made work such a big part of our lives. It might seem a little bit unfair that all of these young folks are coming in and can have all of these demands that are being met, right? So I think that's the first thing we need to get over as a standard kind of umbrella disclaimer over everything that I'm going to talk about. But I think that the surprising
thing is the elder sibling syndrome. मुझे नहीं मिला था इन्हें कैसे मिल गया?
No, I think that's I love Kevin. I love the ability, because it is such a crucial part of being an older sibling to grow beyond that and to want the best for your younger sibling. Sorry, Kevin, do go ahead.
No, absolutely. So I think the thing that surprised us a little bit is that we were expecting that, look, if you give a mic to anybody and say, what is it that you want for an ideal situation, you should not be surprised if they start listing out those things, right? Whether it's like pick up and drop for office, whether it's remote work, whether it's a 4-day work week. Obviously, if you're asking somebody for their input and you want them to be honest, then these are the things that you're going to get. The thing that stuck out to me is actually that Gen Z wants to improve their career prospects. So the one point is a connection to senior management and leadership, right? Because I think that is a little bit contradictory, where you'd at first glance say, okay, Gen Z just wants their life to be easier. They want their life to be less about work, and they want the bandwidth and time to be able to focus on fitness or personal relationships, etc. But what they also want is mentorship. And that's something that we deal with at Yuva a lot, that your traditional learning and development programs are not enough to cover it. And our attitude earlier was also that, didn't you go to college to learn these skills? And it's not necessarily the job of a workplace to teach you how to do your job beyond the point, right? And I feel like all of us have learnt by doing without really having specific mentors at work. But I think that was very surprising that Gen Z is looking to upskill and they want that advice straight from the top. They don't necessarily just want it from their reporting managers or their super bosses. They want it from the leadership of the company. And so if you can create a culture where a lot of organizations say this, that we have a culture where even an intern can talk to the CEO about something, but very few of them actually put that into practice. And that's one of the things that Gen Z really seems to want, which was a bit surprising to me.
But can I just pick on the last sentence you said, Kevin, because it's so fascinating. You said, can we create a culture where an intern can interact with the CEO? Can it be done? Is it really possible? We're not talking about town halls where people just come and speak their mind out, because that rarely sort of has a connect. But is it possible in today's day and age? And Shruti, if you can come in on this one, on how leadership, which is two generations before Gen Z, millennials find it so hard. Imagine what boomers, etc., are facing with it. Can you imagine a Narayan Murthy mentoring somebody about why there should be more work hours, or having an interaction with somebody who's so much younger who says, hold on, I just want to work for 4 days and then I need some mental detox time. Is that really possible in today's day and age, Shruti?
25 years back, when I started my career, I remember that was the value systems of the organization in which I joined. Openness, transparency. We could walk into the door of the India office MD and speak our heart out. Today, we get a lot of organizations that come to us asking to create an environment of psychological safety, wanting to create an environment where people can speak their heart out. So openness and transparency, psychological safety is something that organizations are seeking. That is an ask we get asked about all the time. So I think, is it possible? Organizations want it, people want it. Is it doable? Anything that we start will create a little bit of friction, because people are not used to somebody walking up to me and saying, listen, this is wrong. But over a period of time, it should happen. It is the need of the hour. The reports are saying, people are saying, and as I said, organizations want it.
I do want to also add, and we're going to come back to all three of you to ask you more about this, but the incredible thing that I have found, at least about Gen Z, is that they're also not hierarchical in their day-to-day beyond the workplace. So the idea of certain people being lower or above them in their day-to-day, they just treat people around them much better, is what I have seen. But Kevin, we'll come to you for more on that in a second. Right now, let's take our audiences to more data. So what is the workplace trade-off? Let's take a look at that first. 52% say they want a personalized workplace and no dress code. We touched on this a little earlier. 64% say they want flexible work options. 61% say they prioritize mental health resources at work. 61% say they would work for a firm that values inclusivity, and this is very important, even for less money. So that's how important that value is for them. Okay, so how do we summarize that?
This essentially means one thing, that there was a generation before ours maybe, where they said that, okay, if you give me a gadi, if you give me a house, I will work for you, I will dedicate my life for you. If you can sponsor my kids' education, then I will leave my place, I will move to wherever you throw me and I will be happy about it. Then came a generation which said that, listen, I want more than that, I want salary hikes and I want to be able to afford my own, which is millennials. And now Gen Z is saying, listen, hold on, money is not a factor. It is important, but it was not what will draw me to an organization. A good culture will, which is so very fascinating, which brings us to, then what is a big no-no for Gen Z? What are the struggles in a workplace that will make Gen Z say no? What do they define as toxic workplace factors? If micromanagement is happening, if there are hierarchical structures as well, big no-no for Gen Z. Lack of work-life balance, no-brainer really, everybody wants it now. It's not just, about Gen Z anymore. Workplace discrimination based on gender, age, caste, a big no-no. They will not work even if you give them the highest salary in the market. Corporate greed over sustainability, another red flag for Gen Z. Harassment and lack of redressal mechanisms, not going to work. And basically they are saying, give us fair pay, give us growth opportunities, give us work life balance, mental health support, and we are there for you. We'll work for you, but these things matter, and there has to be a tie-in on their personal values to what the company believes in.
I like to
Huge.
believe it's just Gen Z saying treat us like human beings. Treat us like human beings and we will give you. We are not cogs in the machine. Maybe I'm being over poetic, but I do feel like that's what they are pushing for. Okay, so let's go back to our guests to understand a little bit more, to analyze these numbers. Essentially, a Gen Z friendly workplace equals a workplace that is productive, but by doing all of these things. So we'll go back to Supratik. He's with us. Remember, Supratik, we'll just tell our audiences, Chief Talent Officer at RPG Group. Shruti Swaroop is with us. She's the author of Microaggressions at the Workplace. And of course, Kevin is with us. He's the CEO at Yuva. So Pratik, if we could just come back to ask you, we'd hinted that we might ask you this question. Walk us through a trickier change. So walk us through a tricky change that RPG has tried to implement. And when I say tricky change, something that was for Gen Z people, Gen Z kids, something you changed, but that was trickier for the older echelons of your organization to absorb, and what that absorption process looked like. Tell us.
Yeah, why don't you give us some examples? Some time back, and not very long ago, Gen Z walks in straight out of college, first day at work, goes and walks up to the manager and says that, after some time, says that, I think this can be done in a very simple way. First day, and the manager is like, what? I never did it in my life in 30 years. Okay. And didn't work too well. All right. 3 days time, the Gen Z quit. Okay, we didn't do that, right? Now, what happened here was somebody couldn't take it, right? So what are we doing about it? Are these solitary instances? Of course not. So as you rightly said, the elder brother syndrome comes in here saying that I never do that. How did you sort of come up and ask me that question on the first day of your life?
So did the person who walked in quit, or did the boss quit?
No, the Gen Z quit.
Gen Z quit.
The Gen Z quit,
Okay.
So he quit in 3 days' time. So stuff like that will continue to happen because these people speak their heart. They want to say what it is and what it is not. But freely, frankly, and earnestly, this is what we really want as an organization, don't we? So the first thing that we are trying to do is sensitizing our people, saying that, look, you have to be different now. What has brought us here will not take us there. We need to be talking to people in a different way. For example, we have sensitization programs for people who manage Gen Zs, right? So it is very different. Now, you talked about harassment some time back. People are saying that I want a physically and psychologically safe workplace. Everybody's talking today about saying that, okay, I've got the POSH committee, which is that internal controls committee, and so I'm compliant. So that's not enough, right? So we're saying that you need to be able to create an environment where everybody at any point of time, 24/7 can, just raise their hand and say that, look, I don't accept it, right? So what we did was we created a 24/7 helpline, which is just one number across all employees of the organization where people can just text, call, WhatsApp, or even give a missed call. And that's not operated by us. That's operated by a third party, which is a counseling organization, right?
Sure.
So stuff like that. People want to see more and more of the stuff that you're talking about. They want to see it in action. And if they don't see it in action, they're not happy. Some time back, you talked about Gen Z want to have the clear connect with people at the top, right? If you're honestly, you can talk about it. For example, if you're a coffee shop, you can give out a cup of coffee with a smiley drawn on it. That's cosmetic, right? And they are very smart. They can see beyond that cosmetic stuff. So today, what we are trying to do is, honestly, even the chairperson, the vice chairperson, the president HR, all senior leaders, they will consistently have this one-on-one with the Gen Zs. If you don't do that, people lose them. They want that connect. And lastly, Thoya, Sonal, they're not saying anything different. We've also been saying the same thing. We just never had the courage. They do.
Yeah. That's the.
Who never wanted a work-life balance?
Those are golden words. Those are golden words. Indeed.
I absolutely wanted to travel so much, but they're saying, you don't let me travel, I don't work for you.
Yeah.
They don't want to wait for 50 years of age to figure out that they wanted to learn the piano as well, or the guitar maybe.
But Supratik, you know what my mind is going to right now? How many talent officers in organizations think like you? That's the question on my mind. And let me take that to Kevin to just get a perspective here. Kevin, I understand this Googleization of workplace that Gen Z want, millennials also wanted. That was the ultimate dream, right? To be in an organization like that where one could grow, one could do things. But in your analysis, since you interact with so many young people and companies, etc., adoption levels, where are companies today?
Still a long way to go, to be really honest. I think RPG has been one of the outliers, especially for a legacy corporate business that has operated for as long as they have in the kind of products and services that they give. I think it's a story that's getting better, but I think it's driven now by the fact that millennial and Gen X employers have no option but to adapt, right? Because how many waves of Gen Z attrition are you going to see? And at some point realize that maybe you are part of the problem. And the generation is not necessarily going to change. So I love that when we talk about Gen Z, we're almost like treating them with this thing that they're a different species. It's almost like talking about human-wildlife conflict, right? Where like, it's like, oh my God, okay, the Gen Zs are going to come in and this is going to happen and these instances are going to rise. I think it's important to remember that Gen Z is like us. And one of the things that you mentioned, Sonal, earlier, I think is a very, very strong insight that no other generation has been put in the spotlight as much as Gen Z has, right? We're constantly shoving a mic in their faces and asking them what they want. Then we can't be offended by what they're saying, but also we have to take it with a pinch of salt and realize that they are also maturing, they are also growing. So, for example, we at UVA have always believed in a strong work-life balance culture, but we also had to sit down and have a conversation with some of our top talent and say, look, we know how this is going to sound, but unfortunately, if you are going to have to excel at work, if you want to go over and beyond, it will also mean that you have to sometimes go over and beyond your work hours. It will also mean that sometimes you will have to get out of your comfort zone to do this stuff. And we are not saying that we as a company will expect that as a default, but we are saying that anybody who has been successful in the media, and I think the two of you are great testament, you can't just be sitting down and just doing what you're asked, right? You have to kind of look for opportunities. You have to be able to back yourself and go a little bit over and beyond. And it's okay if you don't want to, but then you also can't expect outsized returns for just doing what is your basic job. And we have started holding that line because we've realized that while obviously you don't want to spread generational trauma, you don't want to be a millennial who says, just because my boss treated me like this and made me the person I am today, I'm going to do that to you.
Yeah.
But you have to factor in that successful people also get successful by people pushing them hard. So if you are also going to go the other end and just tell Gen Z, we'll give you everything you want, just don't bother us, just don't put Glassdoor reviews about us, just don't put things on Twitter, on LinkedIn about us, you are also failing them because you are not providing a place for their growth. I think it's just important for organizations to get to the place where they can tell Gen Z, look, this is perhaps what is the minimum expectation of you over here, and this is what we're doing for you. But also, if you want to be successful, if you want to be a breakout success, then conventional means...
Can I give my takeaway from what Kevin is just saying, which is so important? I think it's also because Gen Z is also maturing. I think Gen Z right now, how we see them, the older Gen Zs is, and this is something that Kevin had said last time around, he was on the program, it really stuck with me, that they're also maturing, they're also figuring things out. This survey is also, like I said, in 23 we did this. As we progress, as this generation gets into, a little more into the workplace, they will also change their ideas. So let's be mindful of that, right?
So just to go back to that counter question of the workplaces that aren't making the changes they should. Shruti, if I could come to you and ask you, a few months ago on the show, we covered the heartbreaking story of, a young woman and overworking and the problem of overworking that takes place in a lot of the country's best companies. Shruti, I want to ask you, when we were speaking earlier, we know that companies will have helplines, for example, but how many people are actually taking up those helplines beyond, for example, RPG? How many are using the mental health facilities? How effective those mental health facilities are? Shruti, weigh in on that, because there's a disconnect happening here. Companies saying they're walking the talk, but seemingly not actually doing so.
So are companies walking the talk? I think they are. So most organizations today have these counseling helplines, the one that Supratik spoke about. They have counselors who sit at the premises as well. There are enough and more facilities. We are doing, as organizations, everything we can to provide support to people. Now, are people taking advantage of that? I would say if we really put a number to that, maybe not more than about 40%. And there's a reason out there. There is still a taboo to the word mental health that we have in organizations and in the society as such. So if I tell somebody that I'm seeking a coach, people are still okay with it. But if I tell somebody I'm seeking a counselor, there is an automatic judgment that comes in. And that has been there through the years. Is it easy to create awareness about it? I think it is. Are we doing anything about it? I don't think we are. So we talk about mental health, we talk about stress, we talk about, the World Mental Health Day and Happiness Day and all of that. But we are not really promoting the concept of taking break. And when people do talk about work-life balance, like we were talking about, Gen Z is asking for it, we are judged. Why do you need a work-life balance? And we have been having this conversation on the show itself. The thing is, I never took that break, so why do you need that break? I carried my life without a counselor, so why do you need a counselor? So I think organizations are doing their bit, but there is so much more that needs to be done to really join the dots. And I also feel we are over romanticizing who we were in our 20s.
Yeah.
And we are saying that, okay, just because I never made a mistake, or I'd like to believe I'd never made a mistake, or I was perfectly fine, so everybody has. And we've forgotten. We as humans, we have very short memory. We've forgotten who we were when we were in our 20s. So come back to your question, Toya. I think,
On that note, how we've forgotten how we were.
And
let's quickly take a break.
Yeah, we'll quickly take a break.
have.
It's actually funny because it's sounding, of course, we're talking about companies, but this is also how parents talk sometimes in India. जब हम छोटे थे, ये हुआ था. It's the same way our parents talk. Okay, we're going to head into a quick break. On the other side, we're returning to this exact discussion. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the Breakfast Club. Today on the show, on World Happiness Day, we're taking a look at how happy the youngest Gen Zs actually are. How are they doing? And next, we're taking you to a particularly important set of numbers, the Gen Z happiness levels. So we asked Gen Z, how happy are you? On a scale of 0 to 10, this is how the numbers fared. Okay, so overall, 7.55.
Not bad.
Yeah, not at all. And this is just 1 to 10, they were told. Choose a number for yourself, 7.55. Then it gets a little interesting. If these were working Gen Zs, 7.55 said, yep, we're doing great. So consistent with that number. But non-working Gen Z, so those who haven't chosen to work at all, 7.03. So a slight dip taking place in terms of how many say that they are happy.
So there is also a bit of a nuance here, and let's quickly throw those numbers also for everybody to see. So we looked at Gen Z. I mean, we keep prioritizing them and thinking that they all live in metros. That's not the fact, right? A lot of young people, Gen Z, are in not so urban areas. So if you look at those numbers, they also tell you that the non-metro Gen Z are actually happier than the metro residents. I mean, won't anybody be happy not going through traffic every day, I wonder? But okay, that applies to Gen Z as well. Working Gen Z are also happier than non-working peers. And 20 to 25, 22 to 25-year-olds are happier than 18 to 21-year-olds. Again, I feel that is a number that could vary with age as well as you progress. The gender one, which is very interesting, men reported higher happiness than women, and that is a number that really scares me on why that is happening with Gen Z. But let's try and break that open with our guests as well. We've got some fresh voices coming in. Smita Shetty Kapoor, CEO and co-founder of Kelp HR. Kelp won the top 25 safest workplaces in India by Posh. So she joins us now. Kevin continues to be with us here from Yuva. So can I pick your brain, Smita, first on this last number? How is it that happiness index on Gen Z women is lower than men?
Yeah, a great question. I just want to make one small correction. We are the people who run Posh Awards, Safest Workplace Award in India. So only company in India who runs this Safest Workplace.
Okay.
So we pick up 25 safest workplaces across. So the numbers are saying that women have reported low. I'm thinking that workplace makes people happy. And here, these are these women who have not been exposed to work or they are not choosing. See, these are the folks who are doing extremely well in their academics. If you look at the statistics, men versus women top the statistics all the time. But if they are told that they cannot go to work, and there are still, and as you rightly said, there are still people who are across, not only in metro cities, but in regions which are do not promote women to go to workplaces, there could be a slight dip, right? They have studied well, they have done well, but now they have to do something which they don't want to do. So we're still struggling with that, because we speak about India being in 4 centuries, right? While we have urban India, we also have rural India, which still live in 1900s or maybe later, or earlier. Yeah.
Okay. Just to shine more light on those nuances, so Kevin is with us. Kevin, you actually, let me just remind our audiences, conducted, well, not you, Yuva conducted a lot of this research with RPG Group. Kevin, can you tell our audiences the data on gender? We've just shined one data set up there, but it's actually quite nuanced, quite interesting. Women in some of the statistics, for example, it seemed were better at putting emotional boundaries down. Emotionally, mental health-wise, it seemed like they were more in touch with their mental health, according to some of the data that was collected. So just shine a line on the larger gender picture here, please, for Gen Z, Kevin.
No, there's definitely a gap. I think that's one of the things that stands out in the report as well, that even in 2025, there is a gap in not just in terms of pay, but in terms of the way that women are treated at the workplace. And that's something that came up very often. I think the larger Gen Z lens that I would put on this is that Gen Z has what we call main character energy, right? And what that means is that they are at the center of their own lives. And when they walk into when millennials walked into a workplace, we didn't have social media at that time. So we might not have had a proper reference of what that could look like. And Gen Z has a million references, right? So I think overall Gen Z as a generation walks into the workplace with more expectations of what it should be. And when they find that it's not that, then there is a reconciliation process which takes place. That's why a lot of Gen Zs at their first job especially do not last that long. And I think that kind of attitude is double clicked on from a female perspective, that when women walk into the workplace, they expect that it's 2025 and they will not have to deal with patriarchy as entrenched as it is. And even for progressive organizations like us, like we are 6 years old, there is a learning curve for us also to figure out how deeply conditioned some of these things are. And that can manifest in so many ways, right? I think that I'll give you like examples from Yuva, and I think Yuva is a great sample for this, because we're a young, small organization. So if changes need to be made, then they can be made fairly quickly, as opposed to your larger organizations where it would take time for policy shifts. We found that for a lot of young Gen Z women entering the workplace, they are more hesitant to give their ideas outright, whereas the men are much more confident about putting their voices out there.
So now, that's something that hasn't changed from previous generation.
It's not, at least at the end.
That's the trauma that women are still carrying, and that's something that we want to work on. Okay.
Absolutely, and sometimes it's not as easy as just pointing it out and telling women, hey, be more confident when you're giving your ideas, right? It takes a while to create that culture where it's where it becomes the norm that more women are outspoken.
And also representation, Kevin.
Absolutely.
That is everything. If women were to see more women in positions of power, in leadership positions, taking those decisions, that's the only way to build confidence. You can have as many policies as you want, but till the time you don't have role models, it's not going to percolate down. But can I move on from this gender issue slightly, because we're coming towards the end of this, towards this entire Gen Z conversation. And I have a more fundamental question to both of you, to Smita and Kevin. But Smita, if I can come to you first. Does being a younger organization today ensure that you're more Gen Z conducive? I'm asking this question because I think of startups and their culture is much, much worse. But how are they attracting young talent? Because they must also be, asking the same questions. But they retain, I'm not sure if they retain, but they end up getting a lot of good talent. So how is that happening?
Yeah, so thanks for that question, actually. And what I think, I also started this company, and I would love to call my company a startup, but it was very easy for me to attract talent because they know that they are a big fish in a small bucket, right? They get to attract or they get to make changes in various policies, processes. They can work in multiple departments, right? Rather than just being isolated or in siloed in a bigger organization, right? So that works beautifully for them. So I think that is a push factor for us to be able to retain, because we are not only offering multiple facilities to them, but we are giving them careers which they want to look forward for.
This speaks to that earlier set of data where it said that Gen Zs want, for example, to be able to speak to top management. Things that in a startup, when there's lesser people, I'm assuming would just be easier to do.
You every day hear of stories of how startup culture is. We've been hearing about the biggest companies, not to name any of them right now, but even Kevin, very quickly, if you can also come in.
Yeah.
How is it? Sometimes I'm baffled by how startups are getting so many young people, but I wonder what the culture really there is. Very quickly, I have last 2 minutes.
No, it's tough for startups. We've been in that position as well, because you want to not do something just because it's been done. Startups run on this idea of disruption, and that kind of applies to policies, etc. But there are a lot of cases where the reason that things are being done a certain way is because it ultimately comes down to that. So I think it is that startups want to be open, they want to encourage disruption, but when something serious happens, they are still expected to be the adults in the room, and they often have not done the legwork to ensure that happens. So it's about prioritizing strong HR resources. It is about writing stuff down as opposed to just saying things and expect it. So it's a lot of old school legwork that I think startups prioritize later. And I would draw a parallel when startups are struggling with compliance, for example. It's the same kind of thing, that they want to disrupt, but they don't know, they haven't done the legwork or created an infrastructure where good old fashioned work is also being done.
Got it. I'm afraid we have to leave it there for a minute.
Thanks for drawing that comparison, Kevin. And Smita, thank you for joining us, both of you. This has been a thoroughly illuminating discussion, and I love when we actually move beyond, either Gen Z bashing, which is one end, or on the other side saying, what's this cool new species? That's doing something, and like getting to something more central. But all right, we hope you found that a little bit illuminating. Let's move on.
All right, on the program today, we're also bringing you some happy highlights of the day, starting with martial arts journey of just 3 years old. Sanyukta now trains students with precision of a pro taekwondo, runs in her blood. Her parents, Shruti and Narayan, both hold a Guinness Book of Record, and her father smashed records as well. So that's some happy news to start your day.
Okay, and after that, we're taking you to Tamil Nadu, where the state is leading the way. Tamil Nadu is leading the way in water conservation. It's the first and the only state to mandate rooftop rainwater harvesting for every single building. And that's after facing severe droughts between 2001 and 2003. The state implemented this policy, boosting Chennai's water levels by 50% in just 3 years. Why? It saves water, and obviously every drop counts. It recharges groundwater, and it's critical for all. So look at this amazing change.
Okay, happy news coming from UP, where for 300 years a family in Bijnor, Uttar Pradesh has protected sparrows in their mansion, and now they're home to 2,000 birds. Their family's oath is to pass the Haveli down with the promise to care for the sparrows as well. Locals also pitch in, ensuring food and shelter has been provided to this endangered bird.
And lastly, with summer drying up and natural water sources, Odisha's Bonai Forest Division has restored 143 water bodies deep inside the jungle, meaning that elephants, deer and other wildlife are now hydrated. Larger reservoirs have been dug, old ones revived, and special paths built for baby elephants to prevent them from getting stuck in the muddy rain. All of these stories were picked by Better India. We thought we wanted to bring you that sort of happy twist to our usual news wraps.
All right, but it is March 20th, the World Happiness Day. But what's the story behind this day? Why today itself? So back in 2011, the tiny mountain-hugged country of Bhutan said that, hey, United Nations, let's stop obsessing over money and start measuring smiles instead. They got this thing called the gross national happiness, way cooler than GDP, right? And the UN loved the vibe, and boom, by 2012, they declared March 20th as International Day of Happiness. But why March 20th? Very fascinating story. It's no random pick. It's the spring equinox up north, meaning when day and night balance out completely, like nature's way of saying, hey, let's reset and get happy all over again. Also, every year the World Happiness Report drops in around this time. It's like the Oscars of joy, if you can call it that. Countries get ranked on stuff like how long people live, how much they trust their neighbors, and whether they're free to dance like nobody's watching. But guess who's been sort of stealing the crown in this index for a while? Finland. 7 years in a row, those Nordic champs have been the happiest folks on the planet.
Meanwhile, in 2024, the US, which was always a country people look out for, it slid down to 23. Apparently, younger crowds not feeling the TikTok-loving bliss anymore. But it's not just about the stats, it's about action. The UN's got this action for happiness thing going, pushing us to do tiny, happy making stuff in our day-to-day. Share a laugh, hug a friend today. And actually, funny story, last year someone on X actually posted World Happiness Day should just be dogs getting spoiled.
Love it!
And the internet lost it, exactly. Puppy pics everywhere. I mean, who's going to argue with that logic? So pet a dog today, do happy stuff like helping someone or cracking a joke, because it fires up the dopamine, the oxytocin in your brain. This is March 20th. Why not use it to spread some sparkle?
So there is science behind spreading joy. It actually makes you feel better as well. On that note, go give the person sitting next to you a hug. Me and Toya will give some
during
hugs
the
as
break.
well once we take this very quick break. Bye-bye. Investigation. Joining us on the broadcast is our colleague Arunima. Very good morning, Arunima. Arunima, help us understand what evidence suggests a Kashmir-like modus operandi and how are the investigations connecting the dots?
So, what preliminary investigation suggests is that the evening rioting that happened, the stone pelting that happened, evidence has been found that stones were carried to the rioting spot in a trolley. So who really got that trolley filled with stones to the spot? It is similar to Kashmir in the sense that the way stone pelters were attacking the policemen on duty, the way they were taking advantage of the lanes and bylanes to attack and then mingle into the lanes and bylanes to escape the policemen from the wrath of the policemen. All of this reminds pelting that happened in Kashmir before 2019. This is exactly the modus operandi that was taken. WhatsApp groups were created to get youngsters in Kashmir to gather around a site where a coordinate search operation was going on. In this case also in Nagpur, police suspect that mobilization happened. Thousands of people couldn't have gathered spontaneously at zero notice is what the police suspects, what the ATS suspects. And therefore they're looking whether this was a pre-planned, premeditated attack that was happened. And they are looking into the possibility of outside groups also getting involved in this.
Right, that's a very crucial point that you've mentioned, Arunima. But speaking of social media's role in this entire situation that erupted in Nagpur, have officials actually identified any specific platforms or accounts spreading the hate speech?
They are looking into it because they feel that the mobilization happened through perhaps social media platforms because it is not possible. Like I said, they feel that the evening riots that happened were not spontaneous. They feel it is not possible for so many people to come out spontaneously on the ground, be prepared with weapons. In some cases, they found sharp-edged weapons. They found petrol bombs. One doesn't really have petrol bombs in their homes if they're not anti-social elements or they're not criminal elements. So the police is looking into this aspect as to how were they mobilized. Were they all locals or was someone guiding them? Were people coming in from outside the area also? Whether it was WhatsApp groups that were activated or there were other means, again, if I mention Kashmir, in Kashmir, WhatsApp.
Welcome back, and on World Happiness Day, let's leave you with this last video. Renowned spiritual leader Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar set to lead a global guided meditation on March 20th. He's kicking off Happiness Day celebrations. Take a look.
The one thing that everybody is after. If you ask anyone why you are doing what you are doing, I want to be happy, or I am happy so I am doing. So we do things to become happy, or when we are happy we do certain things to express our happiness. But what is the impediment for happiness? That is stress and tension. If we are stressed, if we are tensed, there is no way that we can be happy or make anyone else happy around us. There is no meaning of celebrating Happiness Day if we do not know how to manage stress, how to check stress from engulfing our lives. If you are engulfed with stress and strain, let alone happiness, you can't even have peace of mind, nor can you be healthy. You know, in ancient India, the definition for health is one who is very well established in oneself and one who is happy. If you are not having a big smile on your face, that doesn't indicate you are fully healthy. Happiness follows health, and health follows peace of mind. And for peace of mind, we need to be free from stress. And to be free from stress, we need to know about ourselves. This is knowledge, this is wisdom. So without wisdom, without techniques to get rid of stress, we can never be peaceful. If we are not peaceful, how can we be happy? So on this International Happiness Day, let's resolve to make ourselves free from stress. Let us lead a healthy life.
All right, with that, we are drawing this very happy episode to a close. Tell us, what is your mantra to stay happy? Do you also cuddle with your dogs, or give a call to an old friend you haven't spoken with, or resolve your issue with someone which has been underlying for a while? Tell us. Our feedback is going to pop up on the screen below. We love to hear from you.
You know, one of my favorite things the actor Ranveer Singh once said was that his key to happiness is gratefulness. Waking up in the morning and being grateful. And that's the thing at least I found works. On a little chit, writing down what I'm grateful for every morning gives the day a guaranteed start. So that's one way that you can hopefully just boost by first noticing what you already have that's working for you.
On that note, see you tomorrow. Tata.
Goodbye.